This is one of the most interesting businesses that I crossed so far. I'm a little bit upset that it took me so long to understand this business, but now I do. Before you start, don't forget to subscribe to my channel, as that helps me make more videos like this. So let's talk about Roku. Roku creates an operating system for smart TVs, and it also creates smart TV devices that you can connect to your TV. It was started by Anthony Wood, who had led the creation of a competitor of Tivo, which failed, but then it led to the creation of Roku. Roku is primarily focused on creating an over-the-top solution, while competitors like Amazon and Google only port their mobile operating system to smart TVs. So Roku states that they have a competitive advantage because they created an operating system from the ground up that uses much less memory and much less power. For TV manufacturers, it's much better to use an operating system that's created by companies like Roku than creating its own, as they can save money to focus on creating their own TVs. Let's take a look at Roku's competition. Roku is not competing with streaming services like HBO, but is competing with tech giants like Apple, Google, and Amazon. The market for providing access to streaming services is very competitive. And even though it's very competitive, Roku sells a third of the smart TVs to consumers in the US. And the biggest channel of sales for Roku is big box retailers. And they have a preference for choosing Roku instead of products of big tech companies like Amazon, because they compete directly with Amazon on their retailer business. So that gives Roku a small advantage. But the most interesting part of this market is that Roku is selling its operating system directly to TV manufacturers, so that it is installed directly on TVs. And consumers love this convenience of having the operating system directly in the TV. And in this market, Roku is only competing with Google and its Android TV OS. Let's take a look at its business. Roku sells its devices directly to consumers, and it licenses its Roku TV OS to TV manufacturers. But that's just a way for Roku to land grab. It generates almost no profits from that. Its strategy is to be in every home, so they can make money from a percentage of every transaction and ads showing its operating system. Its player, it's a loss leader, but it gets people on their platform. And their platform is a great business. It has 60 to 7% gross margins. Let's take a look at its platform business. The platform business generates money through three different areas. First, channel recommendations. In its app, it can recommend different channels on the top of its app. Streaming services want to be on top of its operating system, so people buy or subscribe to their channels. Second, transactions. Roku gets a 20% cut of every transaction that happens in its operating system. Third, ad revenue. They have two strategies in this field. Ad-supported channels have to share 30% of their inventory to Roku. Ad-supported channels have to share 30% of its inventory so Roku can show its own ads. This is a very interesting strategy. Instead of getting a 30% cut of every ad that's shown in its channels, Roku wants to add ads to their supply so they can sell these ads to their partners, and so they can have more data and personalize other ads. Roku Sales Representation Program. In this case, Roku manages 100% of the ad inventory, and it takes a 40% cut of the total revenue, and it adds a 15% service and operations fee. That means that Roku gets a 55% of the total ad revenue generated here, and the channel keeps only a 45% of the revenue. That's crazy, but I assume that channels want to go through this route because Roku has partnerships that they can use to sell their inventory to, and they must have much higher CPM due to their personalization. Roku also has their own channel, which offers 10,000 free TV shows and movies. and it also offers subscriptions to services like Star, Showtime, and Epic. Roku Channel has the opportunity of becoming the platform for ad-supported linear TV. It's one of its 5 top channels in its operating system, and it's the leading source of its ad inventory. Okay, so let's take a look at their financials. Their platform revenue has been growing at 35% year over year in the last 2 years. The TV market is not growing that fast, but what matters is the smart TV market. Roku has around 46 million active accounts in the latest quarter, and it's generating around $320 million of revenue in its latest quarter, or around 1.2 billion at an annualized rate. But its platform revenue is growing at a 76% year over year rate. That's crazy. Roku market cap was around $50 billion. That is a high multiple, but given how fast Roku is growing and how big its market, the price might be justified. Roku tracks streaming hours as its most important metric, but we can see that the number of active accounts and its revenue per user has been increasing over time. Its revenue per user has increased from $22 per quarter last year to $27. The total addressable market that Roku is going after is huge. The total spent in the TV advertising business in the US alone is around $70 billion. If Roku gets a third of that only in the US, their market cap might be justified. And we know that streaming is the future, and Roku is the best player to capitalize it. I hope that you like this video, and let me know if you have any questions down below. Thank you for watching. Bye.